Thanks for listening to the Good Enough Wellness Podcast. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Emily.
And we're passionate about holistic wellness that real people with real lives can achieve.
We see you out there striving for perfection, but we want you to know that good enough can be good enough.
Before we get started, everything we talk about in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Always talk to your healthcare provider before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, medication, or supplements. You're listening to episode 21, the Thanksgiving special. In this episode, we are going to have a heart-to-heart about gratitude, its effect on our health, and ways to practice gratitude.
Don't forget about our Patreon, too. You need to go check it out. It's free. Again, it's free. Please go check it out. You can find the link in the description, and it's the home of our show notes, resources, and community. We're working to build this out to have lots of bonus content, so get in there while it's still free.
And don't forget, that's where our holiday gift guide is, and we may or may not have a resource from this episode living there now.
Yay. Okay, Kayla, what are you nerding out about this week?
So this week I found out about a proposed bill in Pennsylvania, which is where Emily and I both live. And this bill would ban the use of certain food dyes and other food additives from our products. And this bill was proposed, I think this is probably the best part to me, this bill was proposed by 2 female representatives, which is really important, and also one's a Republican and one is a Democrat, which
I'm
is
so excited about that.
So cool. Pennsylvania is, I think, one of the coolest places to live, and this just proves it even more.
Mm-hmm.
You can really tell that these representatives in our state care so much about their kids and about Pennsylvania's kids. A lot of the wording in the bill is like, help us protect our children, and that's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the case in every state, but to me, Pennsylvania feels so grassroots.
Yeah.
Like, it really does. Everybody has a family, and they started in their little community, like, running for whatever the local offices are.
Yeah.
It just feels very grassroots to me, and I love that about Pennsylvania.
Right. So, Emily, what about you? What are you nerding out about?
Well, I wanted to talk about this book we're reading for school in alignment with Thanksgiving today. It's called The Great Turkey Walk. It's an older book. I want to say it's from the 50s
Oh, wow.
or so. Yeah, I probably should have actually looked that up, but it is an older book. So this book takes place around the Civil War era, slightly before the Civil War broke out, I believe. And it's about this 15-year-old boy who he's repeating the 3rd grade for like the 3rd time, and his teacher really believes in him, but he's not very book smart, and he lives with his aunt and uncle who don't believe in him, but his teacher does, and he buys his neighbors 1,000 turkeys and decides to march them all the way to, I think, maybe Denver.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he lives somewhere on the East Coast-ish, I think maybe south, and he finds this like drunk guy and drives him out, and he like helps him get there, and it's just really beautiful. And it's like this kid like learning that not all smart is book smart.
Yeah.
And how resourceful he is, and they meet a runaway slave and help him escape, and they just a whole slew of shenanigans entail this whole thing. A slight disclaimer, it is an older book, so you're going to find like out-of-date references and stuff. Think about a runaway slave. Like, it's going to be a little touchy in places, but we're reading it as a family, and I think it's just such a fun read, and I really endorse it. I think it's so fun.
That sounds like a great read, even for an adult.
It is a great read. Happy Thanksgiving!
Woohoo!
Yeah, today's Thanksgiving. We're going to wear our stretchy pants and eat some turkey. But also, we're going to talk about and think about and dwell on gratitude and thankfulness. I think, personally, it is a really important step to not just your health journey, but to you being a more well-rounded person in general, and somebody people want to hang out with.
Yeah, it definitely makes you a better person.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we should start out by defining what is gratitude. And I know you looked up the actual definition.
Yeah, so I found a definition from positivepsychology.com, and it says gratitude is the act of recognizing and acknowledging the good things that happen, resulting in a state of appreciation. And I think that really sums it up very nicely. Gratitude is it's hard to define but you know it when you feel it.
That's good.
You know, it's like that. It's like beyond just like, oh, thank you so much. It's like so deep, and you feel, I don't know, just like overwhelmed by it. Maybe that's just me because I'm an emotional person, but.
Well, I think that's true, right? So like you can act a certain way that like professes gratitude, but gratitude is really something you feel more than, and you can lead with your mouth by, you know, expressing gratitude and saying, oh, thank you so much for that, but it really is something that you feel.
Right. It's not, I guess, like, it's hard to define because it's not really measurable.
Correct.
It's not like you can just, like, say, oh, you know, you're a 15 on the gratitude scale today. You know, it's like, and everybody feels it differently, I'm sure. Like, everyone feels emotions differently, and
gratitude is an interesting thing to have as an entire subject on a health podcast.
Right.
A wellness podcast, if you will. So why do you feel that gratitude is important to your wellness journey?
Well, whenever I think of gratitude and health, the first thing I always think of is stress. You know, gratitude can be a really important piece of reducing stress and even building resiliency. And like the skill to reframe your mind and the skill to look for the good are both really helpful skills to have in the health journey, especially if you're in a place where, you know, you feel really sick or you don't feel like you're making any progress. Because reframing your mind and focusing on the good can really help in your progression. You know, it helps you to stay focused and stay on the things that are getting you to where you want to go. Yeah, and I mean, it helps to reduce stress because you're not dwelling on those things that are stressing you out.
Sure, and there's definitely a difference between, you know, acknowledging gratitude for the good things without, like, you don't want to put your head in the sand, obviously. Like, it's okay to acknowledge that there are some things that aren't ideal.
Right.
But we definitely, and I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate this well, so you guys have to come on this journey with me. But we definitely live in this era where it is acceptable, correct, and maybe cool to kind of just call out all the things that are bad in your life.
Right.
To acknowledge them, because for a while there it wasn't cool to acknowledge, like, hey, some things suck. So now we've kind of done this pendulum swing to a point where it feels like a lot of us are stuck wallowing instead of just naming the thing that sucks and moving on.
Right. I think we went from sweeping things under the rug.
Bad.
To completely airing out all of our dirty laundry.
Also bad.
Right.
Yes.
And we need to have something in between where, you know, we're not meant to have everything be public. And I think that's part of the issue is, like, for the sake of being authentic, everyone is privy to every tiny detail of your life, and that can drive some dysfunction beyond just the gratitude conversation, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It probably driven by social media, this need to be known by all. But it's really not that you shouldn't hide yourself and you shouldn't hide your struggles, but that's for your, like, intimate group of people.
Right.
And you can hold, I think, in both hands, you can hold your struggles and your gratitude for the good things.
Right.
Instead of getting just weighed down by, you start acknowledging all your struggles, because, yeah, we don't want to hide that. We don't want to say, like, oh, I'm not struggling, what are you talking about? But you don't want to get stuck in just, this is my life now. I have adrenal fatigue. You don't understand. I can't go beyond this many minutes without eating because my blood sugar and, like, all these things. It's okay to, like, kind of know that about yourself, but that's not where you want to spend your energy dwelling on.
Yeah.
Hopefully this came across correctly.
Right. It's hard to thread that needle. And it's like I thought about that after I said, like, sometimes you need to reframe, because this is actually something I'm currently working through. There's something I'm struggling with right now, and it's like, is this an actual issue, or do I need a reframe?
Yeah.
Like, at what point does, like, your perception change the truth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's such a tough thing to figure out.
And I think the really hard part about that is, like, that's something only you can answer.
Yeah.
There's, like, I can walk beside you and, like, hold space for you and, like, kind of hold your arms up, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that I can make the decision on for you. That's something you have to figure out. And that's why it's so tough.
Right. And it's different for everybody. Like, the reason I'm struggling with this so much is because someone I love has a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, does the difference between perspectives, like, who makes which perspective right?
Right. Yeah. And it's just something you have to work through, and it's so frustrating. So I wish I had here's your 3-step program for figuring out your life. And that's just not how it works.
Right.
And that's beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
But bringing that kind of back into our wellness is dwelling constantly on the negative is going to skyrocket your stress level versus dwelling on the good things and the things you're thankful for. That is going to help mellow out your stress level. I'm pretty sure it's science, and I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but I think there are studies that are showing that. Yeah.
Yes. And, like, just quick little sidebar on that, anything that spikes, like, stress levels, increases, the levels of stress hormones, and stress hormones are the same hormones as blood sugar regulation hormones. So, if your stress goes up, your blood sugar gets out of whack. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you are having a lot of blood sugar dysregulation issues, that's why we say take a look at your stress, because stress can drive those stress hormones, which are also the blood sugar regulation hormones.
That is so fascinating. And this is why we constantly talk about stress, because it's a fascinating and never-ending subject.
Yes. Gratitude can also help us get into, like, the parasympathetic nervous state, which aids in digestion, like, along with blood sugar regulation. Like, if we're practicing gratitude, that's why it's like saying prayer before you sit down for a meal can help calm down your nervous system, so that way it is ready to start digesting. Our bodies cannot digest in the sympathetic nervous state. This is why, like, runners don't really eat before they run, because it goes straight through them, because their body doesn't have anything or isn't able to digest that food, so it just shoots right through them.
Yeah, literally. You can, don't Google this, but you can Google runners, like, pooping their pants, and it's all over. It's all over the internet. Oh, it's all over. I shouldn't have said that. Don't say all over.
Anyway, gratitude can help aid in digestion. Another way that gratitude can affect our health is by helping us sleep. Practicing gratitude before you go to bed can help calm that nervous system down again, and that can help us fall asleep and stay asleep and have better restful sleep.
The hymn Count Your Blessings comes to mind.
Yes.
Count your many blessings, name them one by one. So count your blessings instead of sheep, I suppose. Yeah. My dad, he's infamous for being able to sleep anywhere and everywhere. Yeah. It's a farmer thing.
It's being so tired.
It's being so tired. And I tell him this, but no, he assures me it's because he has a clean conscience.
Yes.
So there's so many ways that gratitude, or lack thereof, affects our health and wellness, and I'm sure there's many more than we didn't talk about. So feel free to leave us some comments about ways that it affects you or the studies you've read. But let's talk about ways to practice gratitude, because it doesn't really do us any good to know that it does without knowing how to proceed from there.
Right.
One way that I practice gratitude in my everyday life is by being a good steward of the things I've already been given. So you can wish all day long that you would have X, Y, and Z instead of what you've been given, but what you've been given is what you've been given. So the better you are at stewarding that, the more you can be trusted with later. It literally says in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. And appreciate the things you have. That is a good way to prove yourself worthy, and practicing gratitude is a way to show that.
Yeah. With, I think it can be difficult to say this without sounding a certain way. But, like, do take a look at the world. We are blessed with so much more than most of the world. We are first world country. So many people, like, I can be ornery about the amount of clothes I have in my closet, but the fact of the matter is I have too many clothes in my closet.
That's wild.
Yes.
It really is. The fact that you can't shut your closet when other people can barely clothe themselves is insane.
It's frustrating that I have all this laundry to do, but I should also be grateful that I have all this laundry to do, And it's like, I know, like, people say this kind of stuff, and it's so annoying.
Yes.
It's so annoying.
Partially because it's corny, and also I think if you get too much in the weeds with that, it's like, it can feel like, look how much better off we are.
Right.
Which is icky.
Right. But I think keeping some perspective and saying, like, I have access to things that a lot of people don't, and I have the opportunity to even optimize these better options. I think that can help just kind of reframe and keep perspective of, like, I do have a lot to be grateful for. You can also be grateful for something and want to change something.
You can hold both.
Yes.
I'm just realizing now, I think my dad is, like, the king of gratefulness, because another thing that he would always say is he'd be like, oh, put this in the fridge. Be like, oh, we can't find room. He's like, what a problem. What a blessing. What a problem to have. Anytime we, like, get an animal butchered and he's like, oh, is your freezer clean? I was like, oh, my freezer's a mess. I gotta go clean. He's like, what a problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it really is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, truly.
What feels like a huge burden is actually a blessing.
Yeah. So another way that I actively practice gratitude in my life, and it's a way that I kind of got my friends doing it too, is I have on my phone, I have a list of, I call it my list of abundance. And it sounds really like health and wealth, but I promise it's not. And all it is a list of things that are either paid for already, like things I already own, or things that are, like, cheap for me to make. That helps me feel, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like you have more than you have?
I guess, yeah. It helps me feel like I have more than I have, or it helps my family feel like we have plenty.
Yeah.
We're definitely in a season of life where, like, we don't really eat out much. We don't really take vacations. We're 7 people on one blue-collar income, and we're so
financially savvy.
we are very thrifty.
Yes.
And I'm really thankful for this life. I know I'm living a life that a lot of people dream of, and I don't take that for granted. So on this list, I would put, for example, on my list right now, I think I have popcorn.
Yeah.
Because my kids love popcorn, and popcorn is cheap. Also, we should put this in our show notes. I just found somebody right around the corner from me is farming popcorn. So I have local popcorn, and I have a big 25 pound pail of popcorn in my pantry right now.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. It's delicious. So that's something super cheap that I can make for my family, and they're thrilled. Any type of, like, streaming service that you already pay for. You already know you're paying for Amazon Prime this month. We have all of these movies at our disposal. We don't have to go buy one. We don't have to see whatever new thing came out. We already have more than we could watch in a lifetime at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Another thing that I have on there is I have a Kindle. It's a, like, 10-year-old Kindle Paperwhite that's, like, slow as can be, but I can get library books on there.
Yeah.
Totally free. Already own it. Already paid the $35 for it. I already own it. I'm pretty sure I have magnesium on there too, because we've talked before about how I make magnesium, like, super cheap. I already have the magnesium hydroxide in my pantry. All I have to do is pick up the 99-cent carbonated water, and now I have a week's worth of magnesium. So like when I get ungrateful, if we're being honest, when I start wishing for, oh, I wish I had a budget to buy this supplement and that supplement, I reel back and I go, wait, what do I already have that I'm not utilizing?
Right. Yeah.
What would you put on that list?
It's like, that's a great list already. I think for me, I would put going for a walk.
Yeah.
I have access to 130 acres, and most of it is wooded.
That's amazing.
There's animals everywhere. Like, I go for a walk. That's free. And, you know, the grounding and the sunshine and the fresh air, you know, go a really long way. Making, like, cookies or brownies. I usually have all the ingredients for those in my pantry already. I'll make a cup of tea. Like, for some reason, a cup of tea feels so much more luxurious than anything else. Or even, like, a special cup of coffee. I tend to do coffee every day, but tea I tend not to do every day. So it's like, have a cup of tea in the afternoon feels, I don't know, just weirdly luxurious.
Yeah, I love that. It's like life's simple pleasures.
Take a bath, if, you know, you have access to that and the time. You know, it's usually pretty cheap to take a bath. It's like, forces you to do nothing. You get the magnesium through the skin.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll set my phone or my laptop up so I can watch TV while I take a
What
bath.
a life you live.
I know, and it's like so simple, but it makes me feel like I've done something super special for myself. Like, I've gone to the spa.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's just all
weird
those, like,
that sounds.
What we consider to be kind of like silly little things that when we're feeling ungrateful, we forget about them. So having them as like a quick list is great. In fact, I'm going to be putting in our show notes a download for you to download a cheat sheet that you can fill out yourself, put on your fridge, make it for your family, make it for yourself, so that when you're feeling what's the book? The Berenstain Bears. The Berenstain Bears get the gimmies. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And it's like brother and sister bear, like, they always want everything that's at the store when they go grocery shopping. So they have to, like, learn to get rid of the gimmies. And I think sometimes we get that as adults.
Right.
So when we get the gimmies, I think it's good to have a list that you can go to and be like, no, you know what? We're going to watch a movie we already own. We're going to snuggle on the couch and we're going to eat some popcorn and we're going to have the best night ever.
Right.
Today's Thanksgiving. How can we go into this holiday with an attitude of gratitude? How do we position our hearts for thankfulness, especially as we're gathering with our extended family, and sometimes that's not the most peaceful of situations.
Who knows what that might bring?
Who knows? What an adventure.
Yeah, and who thought to put Election Day right before Thanksgiving?
Oh, my word.
That was dumb.
It was dumb. Somebody has a sense of humor.
Yeah, so, like, hopefully you're listening to this before you go to your Thanksgiving family events, but if you're not, I think you can still, like, draw from this for other family events. So, like, I think looking at that abundance cheat sheet could be really helpful before you go to a family event, and saying, like, you know, what is something I can do before I go, to kind of, like, make myself feel like I have a lot more than I have, you know, just kind of, like, position yourself for that. I think if you have a family event that you go to, you know, take some time to recognize that some people don't have family events to go to. They don't have any family.
It's true.
Or they're, like, living away from their family and they wish they could, even though it would be stressful. You know, you have the option to not go to a family event. That's also a privilege that some people don't have. And then just kind of, like, transitioning into some of the stuff that might come up around the food at Thanksgiving. It can kind of be a triggering holiday for some of us because, you know, you're around a lot of foods that you don't normally eat, or that you have perceived as bad, or that, you know, don't really fit into your current diet. Like, whatever the case may be, it's okay to allow some of these food rules, quote-unquote food rules, to fall by the wayside on this holiday, as long as they're not going to be detrimental to, like, your health and well-being,
your
like,
quality of life.
Yes,
really.
don't partake in something that you know is going to make you miserable later down the road. But if you're just worried about the quality of it, if you're just worried about the macros of it, it's okay. You know, one day is not going to kill you. practice some gratitude around it. Like you normally don't have to, you have the option to not partake in this kind of stuff all the other days of your life. And so like one day, what a blessing that you are able to choose not to partake every other day. And so like one day is actually such a great blessing.
That was so well said. Don't be crying over here. So sometimes when you are sharing a meal with other people, especially extended family for some reason, there's always going to be somebody who makes comments about your diet, like, oh, I can't believe you're eating that. You usually eat so healthy, when you're eating something like butter. Or sometimes you come across, there's usually a lot of indulgence on Thanksgiving, so there's always going to be a few people who are like, oh, we got to go to the gym tomorrow. Make sure we go to the gym and burn off all these extra calories, or, oh, my pants aren't going to fit tomorrow, that sort of thing. How do you navigate that as somebody who's tried really hard to kind of walk away from diet culture and the morality around food?
Well, there's a difference between what, like, different Kaylas would say, I'm sure. But my highest self...
Maybe don't share your internal thoughts. Maybe share what you do
thoughts,
externally.
Yeah, not coming out today.
Yes, good girl.
So, like, my highest self, and especially with the perspective of gratitude like we're talking about today, you could say things like, I'm so grateful that we're able to share this meal together in this home. What a blessing it is to be able to sit down and share this dessert or this food with the people that I love. And, if someone says something about like, oh, you usually eat so healthy, or I thought you were a nutritionist, so I didn't think you would want this, like those kinds of things, just be like, well, all foods fit in a real diet. I don't eat this stuff on a regular basis, and so there's space for it today. And this is one of my favorite foods. I'm going to eat it with a grateful heart, and that is going to change the way I digest it. And it's going to change the way that it goes into my cells. So I think like helping them reframe their attitude from like, oh no, this is going to be a huge problem, to like, what a blessing that this is. And, how can we be grateful for this food, for the time we're spending together, for the family, for, everything about this holiday.
That's so good. And I think sometimes too, this is something you'll have to discern for yourself, but sometimes the move is just to laugh and move on.
Yeah.
You don't have to
fix them.
Yeah, you don't have to fix them. You don't have to change everybody's mind. Sometimes it's a time for that. Sometimes if they're receptive, but sometimes great Uncle Carl, you just have to laugh and be like, nah, here's another beer. Like, it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
I think sometimes receiving their comment for the intent behind it and not the thing you hear is really important, because chances are if somebody's just like, oh, I'm going to have to go for a run later, they just want to laugh. They're trying to find something that is relatable that they want to laugh about. They're not morally wrong.
No.
You're not morally right. It just, sometimes you just have to laugh with them and don't be the person who's bringing the mood down.
I mean, you could also say, like, if they're like, oh, I'm eating my second helping of mashed potatoes, I gotta hit the gym extra hard tomorrow, just be like, yeah, food does give us extra energy, and what a great way to use it.
Yeah.
Just roll with it.
I love it.
Now, before you go, don't forget to join our free Patreon community. We mentioned before that this is where the Abundance Cheat Sheet PDF printable is going to be. There's a holiday gift guide over there if you haven't checked that out already. And other ways that you can support the show, you can leave a rating or review on your podcast player and share it with your friends, family, and like-minded community, especially on this day of gratitude. This is a message that needs to be spread far and wide, so let's get the word out.
And last but not least, on that note, we are so thankful for all of you and how far you've gotten us. And we want to wish you a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you. We love you all.
So, Kayla, what's good this week?
What's good this week is marriage.
Aww. It goes together like love and a carriage? Isn't that how that goes?
First comes love, then comes
different one.
marriage. Oh, I don't know what.
Are you kissing Garrett in trees?
Maybe.
Oh. Tell me more.
The new ACOTAR.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding. So this week was a little bit of a tough week for me. I have been struggling with some situations in our life for a while, and I finally worked up the courage this week to have a conversation with Garrett because I knew it was going to be a tough conversation and I knew it was going to hurt his feelings, and I was truthfully afraid that he was going to hurt mine. And so, you know, it was a subject that I had attempted to talk to him a couple times before about, and he just kind of like didn't want to talk about it because it's a tough conversation. But I finally was like, look, we need to talk about this before it becomes a real issue. And God bless my husband because he is a good listener and he hears what I mean and not what I say a lot of times, because it's, you know, you get into those tough conversations and you start just saying words that not always you mean. And, you know, he's really good about like hearing what I mean and not what I say and allowing me to clarify and asking me clarifying questions. And, you know, we had the option to just kind of like connect over this issue, even though we have very differing viewpoints and perspectives on it. So yeah, marriage has been good this week.
That's so good.
What about you,
Gives
Emily?
me the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
So I just got accused of stealing yours, but I was thinking earlier about, you know, you were coming over and we were gonna record a podcast together, and I was thinking about all the things that go into us being able to do that. And we've spoken before. I have 5 not quiet children. They cannot be here when we record. It would not work. So my sweet husband, our Saturday routine is we own a tire shop. He often has tires to do in the morning. He races home. He takes all of the children out of doors, takes them to jiu-jitsu, shops with the 2 youngest, so the toddler and the 5-year-old, shops on a busy Saturday, does whatever grocery shopping we need, brings them home, doesn't let them enter the house until he's sure that we're done recording. And I'm just like wildly grateful for a spouse who makes room in our marriage for me to exist.
Yeah.
And that may sound kind of silly if you've always had a very like modern 50-50 marriage, but I think it's really normal in Christian circles for that not to be the case, for the man to kind of take precedence over the woman and his needs. And I don't really fault the men. I fault the system. But I am married to a man who values me and values my time and my ambitions. And I'm not going to cry, but I'm really happy about that. And I just really thankful for him.
Yeah, he's a pretty great guy.
He's pretty okay.
We like him a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Good Enough Wellness Podcast.
To learn more about my one-on-one packages, join my mailing list and follow me on Instagram at Kayla King Wellness.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Good Enough Wellness podcast feed wherever you listen to podcasts. You don't want to miss an episode.
Follow us on Instagram at Good Enough Wellness Podcast to learn about upcoming episodes and join our free Patreon to interact with the Good Enough community.
The Good Enough Wellness Podcast, because good enough can be good enough.
Well, that's good enough for me.
Me too.